What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Hart. Today I'll be breaking down this showdown slates. We have game 4 of the Lakers versus the Nuggets. Could be a potential 4-0 sweep here for the Nuggets tonight. Should be a great game to watch. Super pumped, super excited. As you guys can tell, I am not on my normal setup. I've been traveling, so there's no face cam, and the mic quality might be a little bit less. It might not be as good as usual, so I do apologize for that, but we will be back to normal starting tonight or tomorrow. So we'll be back to normal for tomorrow's video for game 4 of the Celtics in Boston. But yeah, I'll be talking through my favorite captain plays, utility plays, all the good stuff in this video. Doing a breakdown, so make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Check out my PrizePicks video after this, and let's get into it. So just a quick little recap of the previous few days since I haven't done a video in 2 days. This was obviously, the Celtics versus the Heat. This was 2 days ago. So this was game 3. I went with Tatum as a captain play, and I went with Vincent and Robert Williams as captain, or as my core plays. All 3 were my core plays for Patreon. Actually had a decent night, got in the top, 27 out of a few hundred people here. Obviously didn't make too much money, but still nice to see that the core plays have once again just been on fire. So that was obviously game 3 there. And then this was Saturday for game 3 of the Denver Nuggets and the Celtics. Missed cash by, I think, 5 fantasy points here. Ended up going with Anthony Davis at captain, along with Jokic and Murray. I did the utility play where you played a guy who was $1,000, just, because it had won 3, I think it was 3 days in a row, if not 4. So I wanted to try it again, and it did not win this time around, and it did not win last night. But yeah, decent lineup there. Just missed cash by a few points. And then for last night's, for game 4, or excuse me, game 3, the Heat and the Celtics, did not play, did not make a video, did not do any prize picks, just took the day off. So yeah, looking to get into game 4 for tonight for the Lakers and Nuggets, and talk through the slate breakdown. So starting off for the Denver side here, we obviously have Jokic, 13.6K. Kind of had a little bit of a letdown game last game. Obviously the minutes were down a little bit there, 38. The game was obviously pretty close until the end where they kind of pulled away. But yeah, he went out 24, 6, and 8, relatively quiet for what we've seen from Jokic in the playoffs so far. So I'm expecting a bounce back here. He got into some early, first half foul trouble, just couldn't really hit a shot, just looked out of it. And obviously Jamal Murray went for 30 points in the first half. So it's kind of the Jamal Murray show. So I obviously love Jokic. He's been super popular as a captain play. He's been pretty much, I think he's been 25% or more every single slate. So if you want to get different, I'd say, you don't go to Jokic in the captain spot, but we obviously know the upside with him. So it's really hard to get away from him, but still, LeBron, Jamal, AD, they all offer similar upside to Jokic. Obviously not as close, but they do offer similar upsides. If you want to get different, those are going to be your best bets there. So yeah, Jokic, obviously great captain play. I love him in the utility. It's really hard to just fade him overall just because of, his floor game was 46.5 fantasy points. Before that, he was averaging over 70 fantasy points a game since that last game, or since like midway through the Phoenix series. So yeah, it's really hard to fade Jokic overall. Looks fantastic for obvious reasons. Jamal Murray coming off of, 1 second. Jamal Murray, there we go. Coming off of a game where he went for 30 real life points in the first half there. Really quieted down in the second half, only scored 7. But he's still back-to-back games of 60-plus fantasy points, 3 straight of 50 or more, 4 straight of 40 or 45 or more. So, I mean, he's been on fire. He's going to shoot the ball a ton. He has huge upside. So, I think he offers very, very solid upside. It just comes down to, like, can he hit his shots? Obviously, there's some games where, he can go cold from the floor, but he's been looking to be super, super aggressive. So, I really like him once again. He makes for a very solid captain play, especially if you're going to fade Jokic. Jamal Murray looks like a great option there. Who's the cheapest of the big 4 players of Jokic, LeBron, AD, and then Jamal Murray is $1,200 less. So that adds up. So it saves you a lot of money there to put him in the captain play. It would allow you to get to at least 2, if not maybe 3, star players. But then you'd probably have to go that route of playing a guy who's minimum price. But it's worked out 3 out of the past 5 slates. Michael Porter Jr. He's just one of those guys who's super streaky, super hot. So obviously he did not shoot the best, 4 of 11, 4 of 10 from 3. 40% from 3 is pretty solid, but 4 of 11 overall, not the best there, but the minutes were great. He saw 38. He stayed out of foul trouble, and he got a double-double, 14, 10. He also had the most career assists ever 6 assists. So obviously a little bit of an outlier, but we know he has mid 30s to 40 plus upside if he's, hitting the shots, rebounding, get that double upside. So I think he's a solid play, 7,200. I mean, sometimes he is very foul prone. Sometimes he can go, pretty cold from the floor, but he's been kind of making up for it in terms of his other production with like assists, rebounds. So I think he's a solid play. I don't love him. I'm not going to go out of my way to play him unless I land on him, but I think he's a solid play. Aaron Gordon's going to be a great pivot off of MPJ. Obviously, he's not really flashed a ceiling at all this series. Not really his series. So, I mean, for that reason alone, if you're looking for a very contrarian option, Aaron Gordon is going to be your best bet just because he's, in that range where it's everyone else is going to go to cheaper guys or they're going to go with more expensive guys. No one's going to play Aaron Gordon. So if you want a low-owned contrarian play, Aaron Gordon's your guy. I'm not saying it's a great play unless you're kind of an ownership thing. But yeah, I think he's a solid pivot play if you're looking for a very low-owned guy who could go out there and get you 30-plus fantasy points, which would really help out your lineup. But yeah, not loving his price tag, but he is there. Bruce Brown, 6,600. He's just been super, super solid. It's just one of those things you can kind of expect 20 to about 30 fantasy points from Bruce Brown. Comes in an okay price tag. Nothing too crazy there. If someone gets a foul trouble, it does help out Bruce Brown. So I think he's a decent play there. In the mid-range, KCP's been on fire. A guy who was super inconsistent coming into the playoffs has really stepped it up in this Lakers series. You could say, it's a revenge series for him because he was on the Lakers, I think, when they won in the bubble. But yeah, I mean, he's been great. Been solid at all around, when it comes to points, rebounds, getting some assists, getting some blocks and steals. So the only issue with him is that sometimes obviously he's super scoring dependent, kind of like MPJ. He obviously doesn't get as much rebounds and he could get limited if he gets in foul trouble, if he's not hitting his shots. But yeah, I think he's a risky play, but he's definitely there, a viable option. Jeff Green, I'll say, is more of your punt play. He did play his most minutes last game. Obviously, we dealt with some Jokic foul trouble, so he did see a few more minutes. Had his best game, which is still only 12 fantasy points, which is not great. But yeah, if you're looking for a punt play, Jeff Green is down there. Christian Brown, he only saw 3 minutes, so his minutes have gone down. I mean, yeah, once again, there's not really much you can do when it comes to value here. Everyone is priced about right. And then on the Lakers side here, LeBron, AD. Surprising that AD is cheaper than LeBron. AD does have a way higher ceiling than LeBron right now, but LeBron's just been kind of steady and consistent. So I think I'd prefer getting to AD in the captain spot. LeBron James is just, he's just, as I said, he's just very consistent. He's kind of been floating between 45 to 60 fantasy points. And we know with AD, he can float anywhere from 45 to 70, 75 plus, depending on how well he's doing. So for that reason alone, I think obviously AD is more of an optimal captain play. He is also cheaper. So if you want to pivot to LeBron just for lower ownership, you could, but I think AD is just a solid play there. Austin Reeves, 7,400. I mean, he's been playing fantastic. It's one of those things where it's if he's, he's going to see probably close to 40 minutes, anywhere from 35 to 40. If he's hitting the shots, which he has been from 3, he's been shooting it 50% or better the past 5-6 games in a row. I'm not sure if that can last, but don't mind riding the hot streak there. And he's been just producing overall just great. So 7,400, I do think it's one of those things where Austin Reeves is a very solid player. I like him. He's a good player, but can you really expect him to be shooting this well 6-7 games in a row? Pretty much 50% or better. I don't know. We saw that with Devin Booker, but then he kind of came back down to earth in game 6. And then in game 7, obviously, they just got destroyed. So I think Austin Reeves is a fine play. I just think there's some regression coming up from maybe that's tonight. D'Lo, another one of those plays where kind of like Aaron Gordon, no one's going to want to play him. He's been god awful. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't start him tonight. So the Lakers overall, their starting five's minus 50, minus 40 or minus 50 when D'Lo's on the court. And when he's off the court, they're plus 20, plus 30. So he's just been a huge problem for them just to be playing on the court. So would not be surprised here if they start Dennis Schroeder over him or if they start Rui over him. So keep that in mind. If that happens, obviously his minutes are in big question there. So I think overall he's just a huge stay away. If you're making a bunch of lineups, I wouldn't mind throwing him in a few just because we know he has decent upside. It's just it's hard to trust his minutes tonight just with how bad he's been and his price tag. So he's going to be super low owned, but still, it's hard to land on him. I love Rui. I mean, he's been solid the past few games. We've been all over him. I've been, shouting out his name the past few games of, play Rui. He's got that upside, and it's really worked out for us. Once again, 28 minutes, 30, 34. I expect 30 plus from him here. Wouldn't be surprised if he starts. He's just a solid scorer, gets rebounds. So I do really like Rui for tonight at 4,600. Once again, going to be super popular. He was like, I think like 20, he was like 16% in the first game for us, which is great. Then he jumped up to, I think it was about 35% in the second slate, or no, 25%. So he didn't really go up in that second game at all either. And then in the third slate there, he was like about 75% owned across the board. Wouldn't be surprised if he's like closer to like 85% for tonight, just because, he should see the minutes there. Dennis Schroeder, minutes have been solid. He just really hasn't been producing. Fouled out of the last game, but if he's going to see mid-20s minutes, we know he's a decent producer fantasy point wise. So I don't mind landing him at 4,400. He should see a good amount of minutes. I do expect D'Lo to probably go to the bench. If D'Lo for some reason doesn't go to the bench and they still start him, I think he makes for an okay play. Kind of like an Aaron Gordon play. Super risky, but he does offer some upside and should be pretty low owned. But if he obviously is not starting, then I think he's just completely out of play for me. Lonnie Walker, wasn't doing much the first few games. Minutes started to trend down there. Saw 20 and then 13, but then back up to 19 with the struggles of D'Lo there. So I think he's a solid play, especially if the D'Lo moves to the bench. I think that just means more minutes for a guy like Lonnie Walker off the bench at 3,000. If D'Lo starts, I think Lonnie Walker's minutes are still in question, but I think he's definitely worth a dart throw play there if you're looking for a cheaper option. Vanderbilt, it's just hard to trust him. He's kind of like a Jeff Green play, 2,600. He sees more minutes than Jeff Green, or it kind of seems about the same. But yeah, he's just been god awful. Doesn't produce. Very, very hard to trust him unless he had some really big aim for some reason. But yeah, that's really it there for this breakdown. As we know, all the offense production is pretty much coming from LeBron, AD, and Reeves on this team right now. Rui's kind of stepping up a little bit as the fourth option. And then on the Nuggets side here, it's been the Jokic and the Jamal Murray show, but MPJ and Bruce Brown and KCP have been really stepping up here. So yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where the first three games of both series, two of them. So the first three slates of these showdown slates, the play a guy who's $1,000 to allow you to pay up for 3 stars has been the route. But then the past 2 slates in a row, it's been more of a balanced build. Obviously, blowouts have been kind of ruining it. So for this slate, I think in terms of my favorite captain play, deciding between Jamal and AD, I think right now I'm gonna defer to AD as of right now, but I'll keep you guys updated on my Patreon link down below with who I actually end up going with at captain. But liking AD, liking Rui, it's gonna be hard not to get to at least one of Jamal and Jokic. Right now, I'm going to go to Jokic for obvious reasons, just because of how well he's producing. Then obviously, we're going to have to get a cheaper option down here. I like going to Dennis Schroeder. Obviously, it doesn't save you a ton of room there, but you could make a case for Lonnie there at 3,000. You'd have to 5,700 left over to fill out the remaining 2 spots. But if you go to Dennis Schroeder, only 5,000 left over. Not much on the either side there, under 5,000, as you can see. So then it does, bring into play like, oh, let's just throw in a guy who's like, $1,000, and then you're able to spend up to 9,000 on the rest of the guys. So that's why the play a guy who's 1,000, probably going to get you 0 strategy works, is because it allows you to pay up for like 2-star guys and a possible third player if you go very cheap. So I will say, DraftKings did raise the prices to make it so it's definitely hard to play 3 stars unless you want to try to jam in Jamal Murray there at captain. And then we go to AD. Gonna have to play a guy who's 1,000. Doesn't really matter who. I just like landing on Beasley because I guess he probably has the greatest chance of out of all these $1,000 guys to get in if they just need some 3-point shooting, even though he's been god awful. But then still, you're left with playing Lonnie Walker, and it's like, really, do you trust Lonnie Walker to have a great game? But I mean, it allows you to pay up for other people, so I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, right now the core plays are probably going to be just Rui, Jokic, and AD as captain for me. Obviously, it's nothing too crazy, nothing too chalky, but I mean, there's really no other routes or options you go with right now. So this is the core plays. I will have more updated core play on my Patreon link down below, but that's the video for today, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Check out my PrizePicks video after this. And I'll see you guys in the next video tomorrow. Peace.